Welcome back to Eatsy, where if we can make Rainbow Jello, then so can you. First things first, you're going to need a 9 by 13 inch pan to fit all the layers of colors. Then, if you want to do the complete rainbow, you need 6 different colors: purple, blue, green, yellow, orange, red. You'll also need sweetened condensed milk. The number of cans you'll need will depend on how many layers you're making. Each can will give you 2 layers of white. So because we were using 6 rainbow colors, we needed 3 cans of condensed milk. And then, of course, you'll need a complete dump truck full of gelatin. So why do we need that much gelatin? Well, for every colored layer you need 1 additional package of gelatin, and for every white layer you need 2 packages of gelatin. So if you do a complete rainbow like we did, which has 11 layers to it, you'll need 16 packages of gelatin. So let's get started. Firstly, you're going to ignore the instructions on the back of the gelatin package. Build yourself a setup like this. You need a wider bowl on the bottom to hold boiling hot water, and a smaller cup on the inside for melting your gelatin. In your smaller container, you'll have 1/4 of a cup of room temperature water, which is 60 milliliters. Pour 1 package of gelatin into your 1/4 cup of water, and stir it with a spoon. Then pour boiling water fresh out of a kettle into the outside bowl. You just need enough water to fully submerge the 1/4 cup of liquid on the inside of the glass. We melt our gelatin this way because if you pour boiling hot water directly onto gelatin, it doesn't melt, it just melds together into an unusable blob. Now let's prepare our purple Jell-o. In another small bowl or cup, add 3/4 of a cup or 177 milliliters of boiling hot water. The 3/4 of a cup of water for the purple Jell-o and the 1/4 cup of water for the gelatin makes 1 cup total, or 237 milliliters, for each of your colors. In another bowl, preferably one with pouring spouts, combine your gelatin and purple Jell-o together. If your gelatin was being unruly and didn't want to melt all the way in a 1/4 cup, once you pour it in here, it will definitely melt because it will have the extra liquid needed to melt all the way. Thoroughly mix the Jell-o and gelatin together, and then pour it into the bottom layer of your pan. While we were making our layers, we discovered we had to put each layer in the fridge for 15 minutes. That might change for you if your layers are thicker or if you used a smaller pan. So if you have thicker layers, you may find that you have to leave it in the fridge for 20 or even 30 minutes. You'll also want to make a space in your fridge that's level. Otherwise, your layers will be super thick on one side and super thin on the other. Now let's make our white Jell-o. We're going to use the same setup as with the colored Jell-o, with a smaller bowl inside a wider bowl. Except this time, in your smaller cup, you're going to have 3/4 of a cup, or 177 milliliters, of room temperature water. To that water, you're going to add 2 packages of gelatin. Repeat the same process, stir the gelatin in the water, and add boiling hot water to the outside bowl to heat the water on the inside. Keep stirring it until all the gelatin has melted. Then crack open one of your cans of sweetened condensed milk, pour it into another bowl, and then add in your 3/4 of a cup of gelatin. It'll look gross initially, but keep on stirring it until it gets to be a smooth, consistent white color. And remember, this bowl will contain 2 layers of white, so you're going to have to measure out 1 cup before you add it to the pan. It's a good idea that from this point onward, whenever you add a layer to your pan, pour the liquid over a spoon so that the warm liquid you're pouring is less likely to drill a hole into your semi-solidified Jell-o on the bottom. Before putting your first white layer in the fridge, tip your pan around so that all the corners get filled. So in a quick summary, for a colored layer, you need 1 pack of gelatin in a 1/4 cup or 60 ml of water, and 1 Jell-o pack in 3/4 of a cup or 177 ml of water, and you're going to add 1 cup or 237 ml of mixture to the pan. The white layer will be 2 packs of gelatin in 3/4 of a cup, 177 ml of water, 1 can of sweetened condensed milk, and you're going to add 1 cup or 237 ml of mixture to the pan. Then you'll just repeat that over and over again until you get your complete rainbow. Mix your blue, pour it over the white, pour another white over the blue, mix your green, add in your gelatin, pour all your green over a white, pour a white over your green, Mix your yellow, pour the yellow over a white, then a white over the yellow, then orange, then one more white, and then finally your red. A thing to remember is that your white mixture that you haven't used yet will start to set on its own while it's sitting on the counter. But keep in mind you can always melt it again by putting the bowl that it's sitting in into a larger bowl with hot water. It's similar to the double boiler method when you're melting chocolate over the stove. And also similar to our method of melting our gelatin. Put the hot water in the larger bowl so that the heat will remelt the gelatin in the small bowl. And after your last turn in the fridge for your red Jell-o, you end up with a pan that looks like this. If you want to too, you could add a little bit of oil to the inside of your pan so that the Jell-o doesn't stick to it as much. Ours released out of our glass pan just fine, but we don't know how it will react to a metal pan if you have to use one. So you might want to wipe a little bit of oil on a metal pan. The Jell-o is pretty thick, so it's easier to cut through it if you warm your knife in some warm water before you slice it. Make sure you don't heat up your knife too much, because if it melts the gelatin, your cut squares will fuse back together when the gelatin re-solidifies. So use a warm knife, but not a hot knife. So, with our pan having 11 layers and 15 minutes needed for each layer, it took us about 3 hours to make this Jell-o pan. So you should definitely give this video a like to let us know that you enjoy this type of content. Is it a lot of work? Yes. Is it worth it? Absolutely yes. My husband and I are adults in our 30s and we thought these things were totally the coolest. So if you got kids or grandkids, it would totally be worth making this for them. You could also theme the colors, so if you have like a sports team celebration or holidays, you could do like green and gold for St. Patrick's Day or different colors of pink for Valentine's Day. Just make sure you hit the subscribe button and put white in between all your layers of color. If you use clear Jell-o, all the colors will get muddied together and it won't look like anything. And our last tip before we leave you in this video, if you need to warm your white Jell-o in the double boiler method, make sure you don't heat it too much. If the white Jell-o is poured on top of the colored layer beneath it and it's too hot, then the color will melt and leak up through the white layer, and if that happens, then you won't have perfect lines when you cut cubes out of your Jell-o later. Please let us know down in the comments if you tried making this, and what colors and how many layers you used. Have fun, and as always, thank you so much for watching.